New tonight here on the Night Team, 160 people have been killed in Louisville this year. The most recent just yesterday. It's a record for the city, a threshold no one ever wanted to cross. So how did we get here and how do we save our city? The Night Team's Shane McAllister turned to the numbers to try to find out.
As parents, we're faced with challenges daily, but this is by far the biggest challenge that I've ever had to experience.
They took a beautiful little girl's life from her. They just don't know what they did to our family.
I can't get my mind around me not ever seeing my son again. These are our kids. This is our future, you know. How is it okay?
2020 has a real eerie feeling in most neighborhoods.
Inside a funeral for another victim of gun violence.
Because she was like a flower, a bud nipped before it could really come to flower.
The pain is palpable.
It's a terrible thing to watch.
For Metro Louisville, this year has been marked by bullets and bloodshed. For Spring Valley Funeral Home, it's been a busy year.
It's overwhelming some days to see these families because, you know, I want to make sure that we give every family the correct and the most tender, loving care that we can. And these 18-hour days, some days get old.
Percentage points provided by the Louisville Metro Police Department paint a picture of the problem. In the first 9 months of this year, homicides are up by more than 80% compared to the same period in 2019. For the summer months, the numbers are even more jarring. August alone up by 450%. Anthony Oxidine's funeral service has buried most of the victims.
We've experienced close to 100 that we have taken care of here through our funeral home. We've helped, which is a tremendous amount of people.
We know the surge in shootings has been particularly painful for communities of color. LMPD reports nearly 70% of this year's homicide victims are Black. So are 75% of the people arrested. We broke down the incidents by zip code, finding the vast majority of fatal homicides happened in 40211 and 40210, both in West Louisville. The trend isn't unique to 2020 or even to Jefferson County. According to experts, it's a nationwide issue, and it's nothing new.
Before there was a pandemic and before there were large protests in response to police violence, communities of color were overrepresented in gun violence. And that's particularly true in cities.
Still, communities of color are most vulnerable, he says. So are young people.
Many are not in school. Their after-school programs are not available to them. Their recreational opportunities are not available to them. So they have a lot of time on their hands, but they don't really have social supports.
It's another problematic percentage point. More than 25% of the people killed in Louisville this year were 18 to 24 years old. 12% were under the age of 17. Children and young adults make up the highest percentage of suspects too. More than 13% of the alleged shooters are teens or children.
This is happening to children here in our community. You know, we see children shot frequently in the Louisville community. This isn't somebody else's family, somebody else's community. This is us.
Norton ER physician Dr. Britt Anderson treats children with gunshot wounds in this downtown Louisville hospital.
I remember every child that I see that has died, that I take care of. You know, I think the hardest ones are the ones that you can't do anything for.
This year, Norton Children's Hospital has seen a 100% increase in gunshot wounds, 47 so far this year, compared to 23 in 2019.
The hardest times are the times when you just realize you just feel so helpless, I guess. And then to have to talk to the family and tell them that there's nothing more to be done. It's gutting. And something that you don't forget.
So, how did we get here? Researchers have spent months examining every obstacle of 2020, trying to figure out what led Louisville here to the most violent year in the city's history. What they're discovering is a series of challenges facing our city and others.
I think the set of conditions in Louisville are maybe particularly problematic as it relates to gun violence. I suspect part of that is the Breonna Taylor shooting and the response following that. And then I think we also can't lose sight of sort of the, for lack of a better term, pre-existing conditions.
Pre-existing conditions like the loss of social services through COVID-19, food or housing insecurities, and stress brought on by health concerns. Louisville's homicide rate is up by 81% compared to last year. Other major cities are seeing similar spikes. Research from the National Commission on COVID-19 and Criminal Justice suggests the average city homicide rate was 53% higher in summer 2020 than summer 2019.
Most big cities, you are seeing notable increases in gun violence. Many measures of crime, including some measures of violent crime, are going down. The exception is gun violence.
Now, cities nationwide are looking for answers, looking for how to put a stop to the trend tearing families apart.
And the numbers we've been showing you are only part of the story. The emotional toll, as you can imagine, accounts for the real problem. Our tonight, Gabrigadis has been talking with 3 grieving families experiencing the life-changing effects of Louisville's gun violence. You can watch that part of our story right now on WHAS11.com.